Okay, so hello there everyone. So again, this is Larry M. Del Rosario. So our topic for today is all about analyzing hyperbola. Before we proceed with analyzing the hyperbola, let us first define hyperbola. So when we talk about hyperbola, these are the set of all points xy in a plane, the difference whose distances from two distinct points, or what we call foci, is a positive constant. Okay, so in hyperbola, we also have vertex, center, and focus, which is very similar sa isang ellipse. So ang hyperbola given by this graph, ang mga vertices niya ay nandito. Ayan. At ang foci niya ngayon ay nasa loob ng mga openings ng ating hyperbola. So meron tayong 2 foci. At mamaya doon sa ating formula, gagamitin natin yung value ng A at C at malalaman ninyo na yung value ng A ninyo doon sa formula is the distance from the center to the vertex at yung value naman ay C will be the distance from the center to one of our foci. So malalaman ninyo mamaya, ayan, yung value ng ating A is simply the distance from the center up to the vertex at yung value naman ng ating C will be the distance from the center up to the one of our foci. So, ito yung ating A at C na gagamitin natin mamaya in writing the standard equation of our hyperbola given this equation. So, we have the general equation, the standard equation of the quantity x minus h squared all over a squared minus the square of the quantity y minus k all over b squared equals 1. So familiar kayo with this formula because kapatid siya ng formula ng ellipse. Ang pinagkaiba lang sa hyperbola, you are using minus between x coordinate and y coordinate, and in ellipse we are simply adding. So, ito yung standard equation ng ating hyperbola galing sa isang conic section. So, let us now have an example on how to perform operations or answer problems involving hyperbola. Okay, so in this hyperbola, we are going to graph the given equation of hyperbola with the center at 0, 0. Or simply, yung center niya ay nasa origin. Okay. So, we have the given standard equation x squared all over 9 minus y squared all over 16 equals 1. So, this is our hyperbola. Ito yung nasa standard equation, and the reason why wala kayong nakitang hk simply because yung center natin ay nasa origin or 0, 0. So, wala na siyang nakalagay na x minus h squared. X squared na lang siya agad kasi 0, 0 yung ating center, which is the h and k. So, kapag nakakita kayo ng ganitong standard equation ng hyperbola, that means automatically yung center niya ay at 0, 0. So, in order for you to easily understand the process in graphing a hyperbola, I have here the step-by-step procedures in solving. So, yung unang step natin sa pag-graph ng hyperbola, given yung standard equation, ay i-construct yung ating framework. We call it framework or balangkas kasi kapag na-set up na natin yung pinakabalangkas niya using our coordinate and asymptotes, it will be a lot easier for us to graph the hyperbola. So, ang unang gagawin ay magpo-focus tayo sa denominator ng x-coordinate at y-coordinate. So, ayan yung kanilang denominator. So, yun yung pag-focusan natin. this time. So step 1 in constructing the framework, so x coordinate, we have x squared equals 9 at need lang natin kuhanin ang number of units away from the center along the x coordinate by taking the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared is simply x and the square root of 9 is simply plus or minus 3. So we have x equals plus or minus 3. So ito yung gagamitin natin later sa pag-construct ng framework ng ating hyperbola. So sa y squared naman, since we have y squared equals 16, so just get the square. Okay, so we have x equals plus or minus 3. So ito yung gagamitin natin later sa pag-construct ng framework ng ating hyperbola. Sa y squared naman, since y squared equals 16, just take the square root of both sides. So we have y equals plus or minus 4. And ito naman yung ating number of units na away from the point of origin moving up along the y axis. So ganito natin i-graph yung ating mga framework. So yung x-axis natin ay plus or minus 3. So from the center, you will count 3 units to the left and to the right. So ito yung ating unang framework. Just by counting 3 units, since our x equals 3, so we have 1, 2, and 3. Then again, another 3 units, so we have 1, 2, and 3 along the x-axis. So yung susunod naman ay yung ating y-axis, which has a plus or minus 4. So we have 4 units up and 4 units down na 4 units na pababa. After that, isusundin mo lang yung pattern. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So after that, isusundin mo lang yung pattern. Magagraph lang kayo ng box along the axis or coordinate that we got from our framework. So we will be able to form a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral kasi it could be a square or rectangle. So after mo yun mag-graph, ma-plot yung ating points. So you're just going to trace the pattern para makapag-form ka ng quadrilateral. Okay. Yung quadrilateral na to will be the one to give us the idea kung ano yung itsura ng graph ng hyperbola. And you will notice, since we have 4 corners, we are going to add asymptotes doon sa ating mga corners. So that will serve as our guide in graphing our hyperbola. So ito yung ating asymptotes. Titrace lang natin yung corner to corner ng ating quadrilateral. So each diagonal, magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag nating asymptote. At ito yung magiging asymptote natin or diagonal asymptote that we need in our hyperbola. So in step 1, constructing framework using the denominator on our x and y at gagawa lang kayo ng box with your diagonals. Then after nyo nang gawin yung framework ninyo, pwede na nating mag-graph yung hyperbola. But first, let us find our foci para malaman natin kung paano mag-open yung ating hyperbola. Okay. So our step 2 is to find our foci. So importante yung foci para malaman natin kung paano yung opening ng ating hyperbola. So sa paghahanap ng foci, gagamitin natin yung formulang c squared equals a squared plus b squared. We already know a and b. Alam na natin siya kasi na-solve na natin siya, nakita na natin siya dun sa given equation. And that is simply 3 and 4. So our goal now is to find our c because a and b ay ang value ng ating denominators. C squared, using the formula c squared equals a squared plus b squared, c squared equals, our a squared is simply 9 and our b squared is simply 16. C squared is equal to 9 plus 16 and that is 25. And get the square root of c squared and that is c. And get the square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. Note, yung C natin is simply the distance from your foci, the distance of your foci from your vertex. Again, C is the distance of your foci from your vertex. Now, to complete our framework, as you notice sa formula ng ating hyperbola, meron tayong x minus y. So, alam natin kung saan mag-open yung ating hyperbola. kung mag-open ba siya sideways or up and down using our equation. Kung nasaan yung positive values, again, kung nasaan yung positive values ng ating axis, doon mag-open yung ating hyperbola. So it is important na malaman ninyo na ang foci is simply along the x-axis. Since yung x squared natin doon sa formula is positive. Siya yung positive. Okay, so ayan yung ating foci. Ayan yung ating foci along the x-axis siya. Gaya ng nasa formula na x squared over 9 minus y squared over 16 equals 1. So, yung positive ay yung ating x. Na kay x ang positive. That means our hyperbola will be opening along the x-axis since that is our positive value. Our foci will be 5 units away from the center. So, we are just going to count 5 units along the x, pakaliwa at pakanan. So, we have from the So, we are just going to count 5 units. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So, this will serve as your framework doon sa ating hyperbola using the foci. So, alam naman natin na yung foci, nakapaloob siya sa opening ng ating hyperbola. So, kapag ginraph nyo ito, if you will imagine it, your hyperbola will be opening sideways. Okay, so in step 3, we're just going to graph the hyperbola. And ito yung magiging itsura ng graph niya sa ating step number 3. So this is the graph of our hyperbola with the center at 0, 0 given the equation x squared all over 9 minus y squared all over 16 equals 1. So these are the steps in graphing the hyperbola using the 3 steps. Analyze natin yung pinaka-graph niya. So ito yung ating center at 0, 0. Yung ating vertex is simply 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then this is our foci. So nakapaloob siya dun sa graph, and then i-graph lang natin siya, ito-trace lang natin yung pattern nung sa asymptotes. So this is the graph. Bubrahin nyo lang yung pinaka-imaginary asymptotes at yung ating quadrilateral. So we will have the graph of our hyperbola. So that is our example number 1. Okay. The next example, so in example number 2 naman, bibigyan naman tayo ng mga parts ng hyperbola, and what our task is to find the standard equation. This time, hindi natin siya need i-graph, pero para mas ma-visualize nyo siya, ipa-plot natin yung mga points. Okay. So our task is to find the standard equation given those points. So our problem is to find the standard equation of the hyperbola with foci at -1, 2, and 5, 2, and the vertices at 0, 2, and 4, 2. So our first step, of course, is to plot the given points to our xy plane. Since our foci is -1, 2, and 5, 2, then our vertices yung vertices natin ay nakapaloob ng mga foci kasi hyperbola siya. So it will be, ito. Okay, so we are going to plot it. Lalagay lang natin yung focus, yung ating dalawang foci, and then our vertices. So alam nyo na nakapaloob yung ating foci kay vertices. So obviously, alam na natin kung ano yung graph ng ating hyperbola kasi nakapaloob siya sa opening ng ating hyperbola, yung ating foci. Okay. And that is our vertices. Na-plot lang natin sila. So 0, 2, we have 1, 2, 0, and then 1, 2, so 0, 2, followed by 4, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, so that is our 4, 2, and our foci are we have negative 1 and then 1, 2. So that is yung una. Tapos 5, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 1, 2. So yung pangalawa. Okay. So alam naman natin na ang center ng hyperbola is one of the most important parts ng hyperbola, and you will be able to get that by simply counting the number of units mula doon sa vertices at hahanapin lang natin yung gitna. Okay, so eto na yung vertices natin or foci or focus. Next, para makuha natin yung center, kahanapin lang natin yung middle ng ating vertices or foci. So ayun yung kanyang middle. So ang gitna between our vertices or foci will be at 2, 2. So we have 1, 2, na 1, 2. So that is 2, 2. Ayun yung ating center. The reason why it is called center, syempre, nasa gitna siya. Importante siya kasi kasama siya doon sa ating formula, which is the h and k of the standard equation. Step 2 is to find our a and c. Since nahanap na natin yung center at h and k, which is at 2, 2, sa gitna ng mga vertices ng ating mga foci, hanapin naman natin ang value ng a at value ng c in order for us to be able to complete the standard equation of our hyperbola. Okay, so you have the center at 2, 2 or our h and k. To find a is simply the distance from the center to vertex. So we have 2 units na distance from the center to the vertex. So the value of our a will be 2 units. Yan, from the center to the vertex, we have 1, 2, 1, 2. So yun yung ating a. 2 units lang siya. Ang c naman natin ay ang distance from the center to the focus. So technically, mas malaki dapat ang value ng ating c kay a. So center going to the focus is 3 units. Therefore, the value of our c is 3 units. Kasi, ito yung center natin up to the focus. 1, 2, 3. So, 1, 2, 3. Again, mas malaki yung value ng ating c kay a. Since mas malayo sa center yung ating focus kaysa kay vertex. So, that is our step number 2, finding a and c. So, in step 3 is we are going to find the last variable doon sa ating formula, which is yung ating b. Alam na natin yung value ng ating a, alam na natin yung value ng ating c. So, importante na malaman natin yung value ng ating b kasi part siya ng standard equation. And in order to do that, we are going to use the formula c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Okay, so ito yung ating mga given. So we have a equals 2, c equals 3. And b is simply missing. So using the formula, c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So this time, in hyperbola, since nag-iba yung sign ng ating mga terms, it will be c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Unlike in ellipse na minus siya. So yung isa sa mahalagang pointers na need ninyong malaman para di kayo malito sa paghahanap ng c ay yung pinagkaiba ng ellipse at hyperbola. Okay, so we have this. So c squared is simply 3 squared, which is equal to 2 squared, yung value ng ating a squared, plus b squared. 3 squared is equal to 9, equals 2 squared is equal to 4 plus b squared. So ililipat lang natin si 4 para maiwan mag-isa yung ating variable na b squared, and that is 9 minus 4, which is equal to b squared. So para makuha natin yung value ni b, we are just going to take the square root of both sides. Hey, by the way, sorry. So we are not going to get the square root of 5 or nung ating b squared, since yung ating standard equation ay b squared. So we are just going to substitute 5 directly. Okay. So the last step is writing the standard equation. So alam naman natin na ang ating a squared ay 4. So papalitan lang natin yung a squared sa ilalim ng 4. Yung ating b squared ay 5. So papalitan lang natin yung b squared sa ilalim ng 5. At yung ating center is at 2, 2. So we have x minus 2 quantity squared all over 4 minus y minus 2 quantity squared all over 5 equals 1. So, yung ginagawa lang natin ay direct substitution ng ating mga nakuhang value. So, this is the standard equation of the given problem. So, I hope you've learned something from our discussion for today. So, please do not forget to like and subscribe on my channel, and do not forget to drop a comment if you have any questions regarding our discussion. So that's all for today. Thank you and goodbye.